now let's talk about onboarding applications. So I told you yesterday that onboarding application primarily consists of three tasks: creating connection, endpoint, and security system. But now I'll tell you exactly step by step how do we do that. Yesterday we understood it from a logical
Yes.
perspective, right?
Yeah.
So let's okay. So for onboarding an application, so as I told you in prior sessions as well, that onboarding application means that you are able to provision and reconcile users from that application. If that's the case, you have onboarded your application. So to onboard an application, firstly we will create a security system. So you can go to admin, go to identity repository, and security system. It's quite easy. Then you have go to security system actions and click on create new security system, and this is how it will look. Okay, so I went to admin, identity repository, security system, and say new security system. I gave a name, I gave a display name, then I chose certain options which I told you about yesterday as well. Automated provisioning, that means based on some rules the user will get access to this application. Persistent data, that the data that I'm holding in my application in Saviynt is the most updated one. And then recon application, that I will be reconciling users or accounts with this application. That is true. Default system, so most of the time you keep all of these as negative. The reason being instant provisioning is without approval you give access. You don't want that. Or open connector is something which is a custom connector which you have written yourself, which is not the case
Yeah.
here. Manage entity, you are not managing it by default, you are managing the usual way, and this is not the default system as well. So usually most of the time you'll keep all of these as no and all three of them as yes. If there is any special circumstances where you want to enable one instant provisioning, you can enable it. As the name suggests, the user will directly get access to that application. Now the second thing that we'll do is, after we have created this, we'll create an endpoint. Okay, so to create an endpoint, what will you do? You will go to admin, you will go to identity repository, security system, you have already created yours. Now just below that you have endpoints, click on endpoints, go to actions and click on create endpoint. Once you click on that, you'll be again getting the same things. Give the name, give the display name, and choose a security system. This is the most important part. Firstly, it is better to give the same security system and the same endpoint name. But if you have multiple endpoints in the same security system, then you might change that. Okay. So what I mean by
Okay.
that is, if you have, so we'll talk about those circumstances later on. But right now, let's just understand this, that we give the endpoint the same name as the security system so that we can relate those. Okay. And
Okay.
you can see here that when we are creating a new endpoint, when I'm providing the name and the display name, I get a drop down here in the security system. I can get a drop down. So from the drop down, I will choose the security system that I just created, which was Active Directory. Got it?
Yeah.
So we discussed this yesterday as well. That security system is nothing but it is something which it works as a container which connects our connection with our endpoint. So that
Yeah.
is why in the endpoint we have given reference to our security system. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, another important thing is, why is endpoint important? Endpoint is important because we define two very important things here. One is called as a user account correlation rule, and the second is called the account name rule. What is user account correlation rule? So, if you remember, I told you that while you reconcile identities, right, and from the target application and let's say Salesforce, you will reconcile all the accounts, right?
Yeah.
So is the case in Active Directory as well, because we already discussed that this is not a new platform that we are creating. So the systems are already in place. Employees are already working in the company. We just want to manage them through Saviynt going forward. So we need to have all the current data within Saviynt to start managing that from Saviynt going forward, right? And that is the
Yeah.
reason we need to reconcile all the data, user account from the target application such as Salesforce. So I have already created user identities by reconciling accounts from my HR source. And now I will also reconcile how many users or which user has an account in Salesforce. Will I reconcile that information into Saviynt? Now, to map the user identities with their account, we need to have a rule. Okay, and that is called as a user account correlation. So that what I mean by that is, if we take an example, if Deepa joined in a company, her identity got created within Saviynt. and but so she was already using Salesforce for quite some time. Okay, within the
Yeah.
same company. Saviynt is new. Okay, so what will
Yeah.
happen is we should be able to map that. Okay, this is Deepa. Deepa has access to 7 applications. So I need to reconcile Deepa's account from Salesforce, Box, Workday, Microsoft Teams, everything, right? And then
Yeah.
I should be able to correlate your all these accounts with your identity. That is that these accounts belong to Deepa, right? So that
Yeah.
correlation needs to be defined. And that is what is called as user account correlation rule, as the name suggests itself. So
Okay.
once you click on add, you'll be able to see what we are saying is that if the user's system username is equals to the account's name from the target application, this means that this is of the same user. Okay. Secondly, if the user's username is equals to name, so if both of these criteria meet, then we will know that this particular account belongs to this particular person's user identity, let's say, and hence they will get linked with each other. What will be the benefit of this going forward? Let's say if you remember, we discussed an use case that the last name of the person gets updated, right? So in this
Yeah.
case, what will happen is your last name gets updated. That will get updated in Salesforce and all the other 7 applications as well,
Yeah.
right? Why? Because now we have correlated your identity with your account. So whatever change happens in your user identity will also reflect in the account. Okay. For that,
Okay.
we are creating a rule. Okay, that how to identify that uh, i- Deepa's identity, whatever we have defined, is matching to her account within Salesforce, right? That is how we will know. So if the
Okay.
system username is, let's say, Deepa01, and we reconciled account from Salesforce as well, and the account name attribute had value Deepa01, then we'll know that, okay, this is Deepa's Salesforce account. So let's map that. We are creating mapping. Once this mapping is created, going forward, if I update anything in your identity, then that will get updated within your Salesforce account as well on actually Salesforce. Okay. So if you get promoted, your designation will get updated from Saviynt into Salesforce. Okay,
Okay.
directly. So, okay. So you can have any number of rules. Okay. It is not required that you need to have only one rule to correlate user with their accounts. You might have 5 or 10 rules as well. Right now we have only two. Okay.
Okay.
So rather they have defined three actually, one, two, and they have also defined that if the user identity. So when I imported Deepa's account from my authoritative source, which was, let's say, Workday, which is an HR application. From that, I imported Deepa's identity, and her email ID was deepa01@gmail.com. Then I reconciled uh, all the accounts from the Salesforce application. And within that application, I found an email ID which was deepa01@gmail.com. Now both of them matched. And now, if all these three conditions are satisfied, that means that the account that was imported from Salesforce is for the same person who already exists within Saviynt with the user identity Deepa01, right? And that
Yeah.
is why they will get mapped. Now going forward, whatever make change I make in Deepa's identity will get reflected on Salesforce as well. Similarly, what happens is sometimes you will also need to have a username defined. What is the account name? So let's say there is no unique identifier at the Salesforce application, and which can uniquely identify you as a person. So in that case, while importing those accounts into Saviynt, I need to create an account name, right, which can
Yeah.
uniquely identify you. So what we are saying is that when we are importing these accounts, whatever is the user system username, assign it as the user's name as well, as the user's account name as well. Okay.
Okay.
So it's not necessary that it has to be system username only. We are just trying to be consistent that we are using only one primary key for each user, which is system username. Okay.
Okay.
So that's what we are trying to say, that okay, when we imported these accounts, we see that there was no unique key specifically assigned for users. So going forward, whatever is the system users identities system username, that will be assigned as the account name as well. Okay. So basically, I'm telling you at a high level, we had three artifacts: security system, endpoint, and connection. Within endpoint, we need to define two very important things. One is account user account correlation rule, and the second is account naming rule. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the third thing that we'll need to do is the connection. So within connection, again, it is very simple. You go to admin, you go to identity repository. Within that, you have connections. You go to the right side, click on action, click on create connection. Once you click on create connection, it will ask you what type of connection do you want to create. We discussed this yesterday as well, that I want to create a AD connection. But if there is any other application, let's say REST-based application or Scheme-based application or SOAP-based application or flat file application, we will choose that type of connection. We will give a connection name. Again, we are giving it Active Directory because we are doing it for that. And then once that is done, we need to provide all the connection parameters. So we for connection parameters, we have a file called as AD connection parameter.txt. So if you see here, you within that file, the one that we just mentioned, we have all the parameters mentioned which needs to be provided to connect to Active Directory. What are those parameters? The URL. So the URL name is given.
Okay.
The username. The username is given. Password is given. Whether this directory is of the type LDAP or AD. This is AD. What
Okay.
is the search filter? From where should I start searching for users? So I don't know if you know about Active Directory or not, but
Okay.
it is designed within a tree. Okay, so this is the uppermost node, com. Under that you have Saviynt. Under that you have corp AD. The structure could be anything. Okay, it's just an example. Then you have object filter. Which type of objects do you want to manage using this connection? I only want to manage users. I'm not managing entitlements or anything else. That is why I have provided object class as user. Okay,
Okay.
and object category is person, because these are all uh, identities, living
Okay.
identities. Then you have account attributes. So this is important. Now I have not defined this as an authoritative source. Okay, what do I mean by that is that this is just another application um, from which we want to manage from Saviynt going forward. So now if I want to manage, if I want to, let's say, create a new account in Active Directory, I need to send a lot of values to Active Directory to create a new account. Similarly,
Yes.
if I'm reconciling values from AD into Saviynt, I need to tell Saviynt that, okay, whenever this value from AD will come in, store it in this attribute, store it in that attribute. And that is what is called as mapping, right? Right
Okay.
now, what we are doing is we are saying that whenever employee ID will come in from Active Directory, store it in custom property 24 within Saviynt. Okay. And what data type would be of employee ID? It will be a string value. Okay. Similarly, whenever there is a common name which is coming in from Active Directory into Saviynt, store it where? Store it in custom property 1. It is
Okay.
also string value. Then similarly for custom property 2, whenever there is a name attribute which is coming in from target system, store it in custom property 2 in Saviynt and mark it as, and it will be a string attribute. So you can define basically all the attributes so that Saviynt will know that, okay, whenever this value is coming in, where do I need to store it? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So now the next one is entitlement attribute, the thing that you were asking about, right? So
Yeah.
if I want a user to be a part of a particular group, there will be a particular JSON that I'll have to follow. Okay. So when I mean JSON, do you know what the JSON format is?
No.
Okay. So basically, as I was telling you, that we use APIs to talk over the internet. Okay. Whenever there is
Yeah.
an integration of APIs,
Okay.
whenever there is an integration of integration of applications. So what I was telling you was that you have integration whenever you are integrating application over the internet. Okay, you
Okay.
will use APIs.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
these APIs I think we've discussed can be of three types. One is called as REST, which is nothing but a REST. They call it as a RESTful interface. You have Scheme, which is advanced version of REST. Then you have SOAP, which is a older version or older API. Okay.
Okay.
Most commonly, REST is used. Okay. So what is
Okay.
REST? REST is basically a way of talking to an application over the internet. How
Okay.
does it work is you need to tell that, okay, there is an endpoint that I want to access. So let's say you want to get all the users from Salesforce into Saviynt. What would you need? You will need a host name, salesforce40.com. Okay. I mean, obviously you'll have the other stuff, HTTPS, something like that, right?
Okay. Yeah.
If I want to get only users from this endpoint, I will need to make it as slash users, right? So even
Yeah.
if you must have observed that when you log into Facebook today, you are redirected to Facebook home, right? And then if you click on, let's say, friends or chat, you get redirected to chat, right? That
Yeah.
is how you navigate over the internet. So the
Yes.
same happens over APIs as well, because even those things are actually happening through APIs only. Okay, but what I
Okay.
was trying to tell you was that you have your instance, and on the instance you want to get all the users. So you have something called as a get operation that you can do. So you can click on, you can choose get. So let me show it to you. Actually, I have it configured. Okay, so see, this is how it actually works. So you
Okay.
have an endpoint which is called as OAuth 2.0 Google APIs.com/token. Okay,
Okay.
what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get a token because
Okay.
it is, as we discussed, a unique key which will allow me to perform other requests when I want to
o-
interact with the Google Cloud Platform.
Okay.
To get to get the token, I need to provide a body.
Okay.
What is a body? A body is nothing but different parameters. If you remember yesterday, we discussed client ID, client
Thanks.
secret, redirect URI,
Yes.
chant type, code, right? So you
Yeah.
provide all these details and you click on send. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Right now I'm doing a post method. So when you click on send, what you will get is you will get something like this.
Okay.
Just hold on. Someone has touched it. Hold on. These are shared ones. So it seems someone has played around. Let me show it to you. Okay. So basically, once you send all those details, right,
Yeah.
the response comes like this, something like this. This is how an access token looks like. Okay.
Okay.
Now what I can do is I can copy this access token and I
Okay.
can provide this while making a request. So we were
Okay.
talking about Salesforce. Let's talk about Salesforce only. That you send all these details and you will receive a response as a code value. And
Okay.
now if you want to make a get user or create user,
Okay.
so to create user, you will pass that value. So this is what is called as a JSON. I'm providing that I want to create a new user in Salesforce. So I'm
Okay.
providing cs40.salesforce.com/services/data/version 35 SO object user. Okay.
Okay.
Within header, I'll be passing my token. Where is my token? There is a keyword that I have provided called as authorization, right?
Okay.
Because that is what we do. Then we have added a keyword, bearer, and then I have pasted my access token here. So I
Okay.
got my access token by providing all the details that I told you about. And
Yeah.
see, now I'm not providing those details again to create a user. I'm
Yeah.
only providing the access token, right? Because over
Yes.
the internet, that should not get stolen. That is why, right?
Yes.
Now, while I'm providing these as headers, I would also need to provide body. In body, what I'm providing all the attributes which I needed to create a user on Salesforce. So I need
Okay.
username, first name, last name, company name, division, title, street,
Okay.
city. So all of these are not mandatory. There are only certain attributes which are mandatory. There are others are not mandatory. You can get
Okay.
that information from the Salesforce documentation. That will tell you whether this is mandatory or not.
Okay.
Okay. So once you will click on send, it will create a new user in Salesforce. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So now this is how it happens at the back end. The only reason I'm showing it to you right here is so that you understand why are we doing what we are doing in Saviynt. Okay. Most of the trainers within these trainings don't cover this, but this is important. Okay.
Okay.
I hope it is making sense to you.
Yeah. But exactly what is JSON?
JSON is basically a structure. So see,
Okay.
what happens is if I introduce you to someone, I will
Yeah.
tell them that okay, her name is Deepa. She's working on Saviynt nowadays, and she is looking for a better opportunity. That is
Yeah.
how I'll introduce someone, right? But
Yeah.
over the internet, if I provide these details in a paragraph format, that won't be correct. It won't be
Yes.
very let's say very practical and not
Mm.
very precise. So
Yeah.
what we need to do is over the internet, we need to provide details in a key value pair format, and that is
Okay.
what JSON is, right?
Okay.
So you
Yeah,
have
now I understand.
username, yeah, key value. So I'm providing the same details, but in a very programmatical manner.
Yeah.
That is what JSON is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn about it, read about it a bit more. But in practicality, this is what it is.
Okay.
So configure connection, we have discussed that we need to provide some parameters. These parameters will help us to create a user or to reconcile a user, basically to connect to the target application. And we also discussed that we need to provide this key value pair so that Saviynt understands that when I get some details, where should I save it? And when I have to push these details to the target, how do I do that? Right?
Okay.
So they need to do. So that kind of mapping we do within connections. Okay.
Okay.
I also told you yesterday that we need to assign the connection that we created. We can go to the security system now, and within our security system, you have an option called as connection. So now the way we chose our security system while we were creating endpoint, we can choose the connection within security system. That is where the option lies. Click
Okay.
on the bottom, sorry, on the down arrow, and you will get an option of the all the present connections, and then from there you can choose the one that you want to use. Okay,
Okay.
and then you basically click on update. Now you can try to reconcile details or users into Saviynt. Okay,
Okay.
so how do I do that? If you want to trigger that, you have made all the configurations that were required. Now you want to trigger reconciliation of user or user accounts into Saviynt. So
Okay.
you can go on admin, you go to job control panel. So as you know, right, every operation needs to have a trigger, right?
Okay.
So we will go to the job control panel, and within the job control panel, you have something called as data. And within data, you have application data import single threaded. This is a scheduled job. What do I mean by scheduled job? You can either run it as a one-time activity, or you can let's say configure it in a way where it runs at the same time every day, right?
Yeah.
So let's say 8 p.m. every day, 9 p.m. every day. Why would we need to configure this? Because let's say there are new users which are being created within Salesforce or Active Directory. So if the next day new users got created by the application owner directly in Active Directory without telling you, you need to have those details as well. That is not the best case scenario, but that is how it usually works, just to avoid any confusion. Okay. But anyways, right now what we're trying to do is we click on job control panel, data, application data import single threaded. We'll click on add new job. Okay, we give a name of the job, which is AD import. We are importing accounts from where? From Active Directory. That is why. Okay.
Okay.
And then we will click on action. I'm sorry. We'll click on action. This got created. We click on actions and start. Once you click on start, it will ask you what are the details for this trigger that you are trying to execute. I will tell them that I want to use the security system as Active Directory, my connection as Active Directory, my job type is full import. I want to import all the users which are present within Active Directory. And what do I want to import? I want to import user identities, user accounts, entitlements, roles. What I want to import accounts, right? Why am I
Yeah.
importing accounts and not users? Because this is a target system. This is not an authoritative source. Have it been an authoritative source, then I would have mentioned that I want to import users identity, right?
Okay.
Because that will allow me to get all the user identities created once, and going forward, whenever I import an account, that will automatically get associated to that user identity based on the user account correlation rule, right?
Okay.
The second thing that you see is firstly, I'm importing accounts and I click on submit. The second thing that I'm importing is access. What is access? Entitlements. Okay, so
Okay.
entitlements are called as accesses here. Why? Because as I told you, the users will be able to access Active Directory if they have an account. But within Active Directory, what they can do will depend on entitlements, and hence we are calling it as access. Why? Because this defines what level of access does the user have within that application.
Okay.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is
Yeah.
nothing but terminology. That is it. Now, once we execute both these jobs, you can go to your admin, go to accounts, and you can search for any user which you would have imported, and you'll be able
Okay.
to find them. Okay.
Okay.
So it's the same way we have configured this. They have given two more applications, but there is nothing different there. The good point is that the first application that we have imported or onboarded is called as connected application. What do I mean by connected application? That going forward, I can, if I want to, I can directly provision users to this application. I can reconcile users to this application. I need not mandatorily at least, I need not raise a request manually. Okay, this can take place automatically as well. But
Okay.
if I have to raise a request manually to provide access to a user, that becomes a disconnected application. Okay.
Okay.
So this become, yeah, now I'm also onboarding application, but this is a disconnected application. What do I mean by that is that if I want to create a user in this type of application, I will have to submit a request manually. Okay, the user will not get created automatically. So if you see again, I have disabled automated provisioning this time. Why?
Okay.
Because I have to submit a request. This will not be able to create a user account directly, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So we are giving it as a name as Amigo Pod. So the same process, created a security system, endpoint, provide security system in the endpoint, and then provided a user account correlation rule, account naming rule, and then I created another one which is called a Sibyl MRM. This is another application. We provide that as well. And this time we have marked it as automated provisioning. Where is it? Yeah, disabled, right?
Yeah.
Because this is a disconnected application.
Okay.
So these are two applications apart from AD that we have onboarded. So you
Okay.
might ask that, okay, this is so easy. Yeah, this is easy. So most of the applications are not very difficult to configure. Okay.
Okay.
So now I'm importing for one more application, Amigo Pods. So once I showed you how to do it through a REST connector, then through an Active Directory connector, now through a flat file connector. So this time, what is the difference? I am not uploading user identities through a data file. I'm importing accounts. Okay.
Okay.
This is accounts import. What is the difference between accounts and identity? We are not importing, we are not creating user identities. We are uploading their accounts in a particular application. And we are associating those accounts with the user identity so that from going forward, they can be managed from Saviynt, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, while I'm importing these accounts, the option changes slightly because they still asking me that while I upload these accounts, for this which application am I creating these accounts for? So I'm choosing the security system name AmigoPod, right? Because
Okay.
that is the application for which I'm creating these accounts. So if you understand from a logical perspective, user identities are for the entire system,
Yeah.
but accounts are only for a specific application. And
Yes.
that is why we need to show them that, okay, this is the application for which I'm creating account. Delete
Okay.
account, yes. So if it is asking me that if there is an account that I see for a user in AmigoPod, which already
Okay.
exists within Saviynt, what should I do? So it is giving you delete account option, yes or no. So let's say in my CSV file, there is a user called as Amit, which is not present, but it is present within the application AmigoPod within Saviynt. What will happen? We can configure that if such a case is found, you can delete the account or not delete the account. Okay, so we are
Okay.
saying that yes, which means delete existing account to entitlement mapping. If there is an existing account which exists for a user, right, and which is not found in this file, you can delete it.
Okay.
Please select the action if account file is account not in file. Okay, so what we can do in that case, we can define that. Okay, so again, first row is heading, delimiter is comma, because within CSV file every column is divided from the second one from a comma, right?
Yeah.
Now it is saying that on the next page, provide the headers. So we need to provide mapping, as I was telling you even during user identity creation, that when we upload through a flat file, Saviynt tries to understand the header. So here, Saviynt was able to understand that what is account name, what is endpoint, what is role, what is status. If it is not able to understand, you can click on the drop down and then tell Saviynt that okay, IT administrators is a role, it is not a group. Okay, and just giving an example. So you can
Okay.
choose from the drop down that whenever values like this come, store it in role. Okay, role
Yeah.
column, and then you click on import now. Once you click on import now, new accounts will be created. The same thing you can do for CBIL MRM as well. So what we have done is we have basically till now we have onboarded three kind of applications or three applications: Active Directory based, REST based, and flat file based. Okay. Now, once we have onboarded or created all these accounts, if you want, you can go to accounts section within the application and see the accounts got created or not. Okay. Now you have entitlement management. What is entitlement management? Basically, as I was telling you, the way we are managing user accounts, users and accounts, we can also manage entitlements. So if you want to, let's say, upload entitlements, you can go to identity repository, click on entitlements, and click on upload entitlement from CSV. If there is a CSV file which contains all the entitlements for the users. What do I mean by entitlement? It could be the role of the user, it could be license of the user, it could be anything. Okay, so if I choose that data file, I will tell the delimiter, I will tell them that, okay, first row is heading. So you just treat it as columns. Security system, create security system if it does not exist. So they are saying that for whatever entitlements I have mentioned within this flat file, so you should actually ask me that how would I know that which entitlement is for which application? So that mapping is already there within this endpoint, sorry, within that flat file. It will also have a column called as endpoint name. So let's say if there is a entitlement called as admin, okay, for Salesforce. So there will be a column called as endpoint name, which will be Salesforce, and the entitlement name would be admin, right? That is how system will know.
Okay.
If you want to see, I can try to open that as well. Amigo Pod entitlement CSV. You have security system Amigo Pod. Endpoint you have mentioned here. Entitlement type, entitlement value, and glossary. Okay, who is the owner and other things as well. But the primary thing is, it doesn't make sense just to onboard entitlement because entitlements are almost always related to an specific endpoint. So AmigoPod have an entitlement called as IT administrators. A Salesforce will not have IT administrators. It might term it as different, or there is must be a different tag to it, different
Yes.
label or display name, right? So that is why we need to define that whatever entitlement we are uploading, which application does it belong to. So basically, you have other options. So Saviynt will ask you if you do not see any security system by the name that you have been provided within the flat file, what should we do? So we are mentioned that if we will create a new security system, new endpoint, and new entitlement type if they do not exist as has been mentioned in the flat file. Okay, we will click on upload and preview, and then we'll be able to see the way we were able to see for both user and accounts. We'll be able to see for entitlements as well that you have mappings. So the mapping is this has been termed as security system endpoint entitlement type, which is access. What is the access entitlement value? IT administrators. What does that mean? That means glossary. That is description of IT administrators, which is network engineers only. Then there is something called as WU help desk, which is first level support, and then you have read only. Okay, who are the owners of these entitlements, who take all the major decisions? We have mentioned their names, their owner rank, and their SOX criticality. You can click on import. Once you click on import, these entitlements will get created. They are saying repeat the same step for CBIL MRM as well. So yeah, those two applications are exactly same, so we'll repeat the process. Okay, so now what has happened is you have imported everything. Okay, you have imported users and entitlements as well. Now let's consider a new application called as Oracle EVS. Do you want to take a break?
Yeah. Let's recall what were we discussed so far
Mhm.
today.
Okay. So basically, for now, you need to remember that you have seen how to integrate two type of applications. One is connected. The second is disconnected.
Okay.
Connected means you are able to do automated provisioning. Disconnected means that you need to submit a manual request. Within your automatic provisioning or connected application, you have discussed two type of application, rather three type: REST based, Active Directory based, and flat file based. Right?
So rest based,
And
can you say what it is?
mhm, REST based is API based integration. So if I'm creating for cloud application, if I want to create a new user in Salesforce, I need to
Okay.
make an API call, which is I so showed you the JSON,
Yeah.
provide key value pairs and get the identity created.
Yeah.
Or REST based, where I will provide client ID, client secret, username, password. In
Yes.
Active Directory, it is usually an on-premise application. So you can provide details such as first name, last name, but even to connect to an Active Directory, you will still need host name, username, password, the port that the Active Directory is listening to, all those details, right?
Okay.
And the flat file one is where you simply go, click on action items, click on upload user or upload accounts or upload entitlements, and then choose the flat file, choose the configuration, and click on submit. And those will
Okay.
be onboarded, right?
Okay.
After you provide the mapping.
Okay.
This is for Amigo Pod. What is the entitlement type? Access. What is the entitlement value? IT administrators. And then the role type is enterprise and the role status is active. Okay. So while I'm importing roles, I'm telling Saviynt that this is the all configurations that we need to create roles. Okay. So I have imported, I have told Saviynt that these are the roles that I want to onboard. Now we need to how to onboard. Once we click on upload, we'll have a data file that will provide that is roles.csv. We will tell that the security system is given in the file, endpoint is given in the file. If it is not present, we will create a new one, right? We will have business process, child role, and everything. So usually everything is on role users and upload and preview. So you can see that there are two new roles which have been created. We can validate this by going into roles. So if you go to role and you now search for it, you'll be able to see two roles. And you'll be able to see that there is a role called as analyst level 2, which have status active, and the role type is enterprise, exactly how we provided in the CSV. Now, this role, as I told you, have four entitlements. So if I go back to this, you will be able to see, and this is what I've been telling you about, that in case you there are certain roles that are provided to people together. So IT administrators also get access to help desk. They also have read-only entitlement. They also get, let's say, WU admin role. Okay, entitlement. So
Okay.
because all IT administrators definitely need to have these four entitlements, we can group them together into one role, which is analyst level 2. Okay. So
Okay.
that is why we have again and again provided the same role name, but the entitlement values are different. Because when we will upload that, Saviynt will understand that Saviynt will create a new role called as analyst level 2, and all the entitlements will be part of it, right?
Yeah.
So this is also called as role mining. Okay, so role mining also is called as role-based access control, where rather than providing one entitlement at a time, otherwise, see, I would have required to submit four requests separately. Okay, give the same user access to IT administrators, then raise another request with LW help desk, with then raise another request with read only, then raise another request with WU admin, right? So this
Yeah.
reduces the complexity and also it increases efficiency. The
Okay.
second thing that I was trying to tell you was that we have uploaded roles, we have uploaded accounts, but we also need to create a relationship between those. So what we are doing is role as entitlements. So right here, what you have done is you have done one to many mapping. Okay, one role with many
Many
entitlements.
entitlements.
But there could be one to one mapping as well, where we want to create a role, but only with one entitlement. So you can do that as well.
Okay.
What would be the benefit? The benefit is that there are certain identities or there are certain roles which requires four entitlements, but there could be some super user role as well, which will only require one entitlement. So when you are managing this particular let's say person with a role, you it is better to manage all other persons with roles as well, right? So in that case, what would you do? You will upload role as entitlement.csv. Again, provide the same details that if the security system does not exist, what do you want to do? We'll want to create it. So once you click on it, or once you upload this file, you will see that these are the things again which are provided. Saviynt role, which is a security system. We call calling it as Saviynt roles, the same profile entitlement type, and then entitlement value. So now analyst level 2 belongs to Saviynt. Sorry, does not have any entitlement associated with it, for what I can see. Yeah, this is entitlement value. So you have entitlement analyst level 2, mortgage manager 2, and all these stuff, right? So you'll need to simply upload it. Once you upload it, you'll be able to see that all those data entries have got created. Okay, so here you have Saviynt endpoints created one because Saviynt endpoint, the one that is mentioned here, Saviynt roles did not exist. We uploaded it and that's how it got created. How many entitlements have we created or uploaded into Saviynt? 217. Okay. How many entitlement type? Now, what is entitlement type? The entitlements is basically the most refined level of access that you can get. Okay. So within Salesforce, you can be an administrator or a super administrator or a developer or an integration specialist or a marketing specialist or a sales specialist. But to get that access, you need even further more refined access that is called as entitlements. But what type of entitlement? So role is a type of entitlement, group is a type of entitlement. So you can have 4 or 5 type of roles, but all of them are categorized under one role, right? Similarly, you have this for entitlement values, which are more refined, and types is super values. Okay, so I'll explain it to you with an example. Here you see. So I have a user. What I'm doing right now is I'm creating Saviynt roles. Okay, I uploaded Saviynt roles. I I said if there does not exist, they are the same thing. No need to explain them again. But if you remember, I told you that there are certain attributes that they will be able to map by themselves: username, account name, endpoint, etc. But there are some attributes that Saviynt will not understand. For that, it will make it custom property. If you want to give that custom property a name, you can click on the drop down and click on create new and give them a name. Okay,
Yeah.
and you provide enter entitlement type. So we are saying Saviynt roles, and we'll upload everything. So once you upload, you'll be able to see that the users will get access to those entitlements. If you go to identity repository and search for JDO, you'll be able to see that JDO has 3 accounts. One is two are in Active Directory, one is in Amigo pod. Okay, and then if you go to entitlement hierarchy, because we have now associated the user with entitlements, you'll be able to see which groups is the user part of. He's part of security training and security AD group. Okay. What I was
Yeah.
telling you
Okay.
was that you have all these things, and then you have something called as SAV role. So within Saviynt, what will happen is once you log into Saviynt, so I was explaining you that you can have different roles which defines what you do within Salesforce. If you are an admin, you see something more. If you are a analyst, you see something less, right? Same
Yes.
concept also applies to Saviynt. In Saviynt also, everyone will not be able to see everything. So right now, because we are assuming ourselves to be the administrators, we are able to see all the options: ARS, SOD, roles, analytics, attestations, and all these things. But a person who is not an administrator should not be able to see everything. He or
Yes.
she should only be able to see what is required for them to see, and
Okay.
that is something that we can control through SAV role. So we can reduce the number. We can create something called as SAV role, which will and within which we can include, let's say, only ARS, only SOD, or only roles, right?
Okay.
So when a user logs in, we will anyways within Saviynt we will provide each user with the SAV role, so that when they log into Saviynt, they are only able to see what we are supposed to see. So how to create a SAV role? It is very simple. You click on admin, you click on SAV roles, and then you click on new. So once you click on SAV roles, on the right hand side you will see action, and you can click on create. So once you click on create, you will provide the role name and description. Okay. Once you so the second screen will ask you whom to request. If I want this role, whom to request, a person can request it for themselves. That is why I have marked it as self. Okay. For whom can the role user approve the request? Anyone can approve the request for anyone. So if I want to be an end user, I can submit the request for myself, right? And any of my colleagues can also approve that request, right? Once that is done, what I can do is I can define which user is part of this SAV role. So I have created a new SAV role called as role underscore training. I provide these details of whom this SAV role is available to, how does it get approved, and then I can click on users and I can add users to this role. Okay, so let's say I added Deepa. I added Deepa, what I need to do is I also need to define that now what can Deepa see. So for that I need to define the access. So for to define the access, once I click on action and add new access, I will see a whole lot of things. So as I was telling you, you can see that we have the admin tab, we have the ARS tab, and then we have sub options within that. So if I want the user to see within the admin tab, I want the user to be able to only see the access rules. I can choose this. If I want there is a person who should be able to enter into Saviynt and should only be able to see all the account list, then I can choose that. So basically, at a very refined level, I can define what a user with this SAV role can see, right?
Yes.
So the concept is exactly the same. The only thing that is changing is that rather than managing what a user can see at the target application level, we are defining that with because of this role, what a user can see within Saviynt itself. Okay,
Okay.
that is the only difference. So that's why we say that we have two type of roles in Saviynt. One is called as SAV role, which is Saviynt role, which by the name itself suggests that when a user wants to log in into Saviynt, when they log in into Saviynt rather, what do they see? That is defined by SAV role. But when a user logs into the target application, let's say Salesforce or Active Directory, what do can they see? That is dependent on the roles or the target application level. Okay.
Yeah.